The galaxy was silent, but the silence was not peace. Entire star systems had burned in the last decade. Countless fleets, once proud and mighty, had been reduced to drifting wrecks. People whispered the name of the enemy like a curse, the Valar Dominion. They were cruel, merciless, and unstoppable. Every race that tried to resist was either enslaved or destroyed. No one believed the war could ever be won. But then came the rumor. One ship. A ship not from any empire, not from any galactic fleet, but from Earth. A single human ship that had appeared from the void, carrying no allies, no reinforcements, only its crew and its fury. At first, no one took it seriously. How could one vessel matter in a war where entire armadas were crushed like insects? The galaxy had seen titans fall. What difference could one human ship make? Yet the whispers spread. Some claimed the ship fought entire squadrons and survived. Others swore it turned whole battles around, arriving from nowhere like a phantom. And always, when it came, the Dominion bled. On the far edge of the galaxy, in a broken sector where planets burned and survivors lived in fear, a convoy of refugee ships drifted through the darkness. Their engines were weak, their shields flickered, and their people were terrified. They had escaped the Dominion's fire, but everyone knew it was only a matter of time before hunters caught them. Children cried. The adults whispered prayers, though few believed in them anymore. Then, the alarms sounded. From the black void, Dominion warships appeared, sleek, angular monsters with claws of energy burning bright. The convoy's defenses were nothing. One shot from the enemy could tear them apart. The refugees panicked. This was the end. But before despair could swallow them, the stars shifted. A shadow moved across the battlefield. It was not large, not compared to the Dominion cruisers. It was only one ship, dark and scarred, its surface marked by battles fought long before. The human ship. No warning was given. No words were spoken. It simply came. The Dominion commander laughed. "One ship dares challenge us," he hissed. "Destroy it." Beams of fire lanced through space, racing toward the human vessel. The refugees closed their eyes, unable to watch. But the human ship moved like a predator unleashed. With speed no Dominion vessel could match, it twisted, rolled, and slipped between streams of destruction. Its weapons, silent until now, roared to life. Blue fire erupted from its cannons. Missiles streaked out like falling stars. The first Dominion cruiser exploded in silence, breaking apart into burning fragments. The refugees gasped. The Dominion ships regrouped, forming a deadly circle. They fired again, walls of energy meant to crush anything inside. But the human ship did not retreat. Instead, it charged straight into the heart of the storm. Every blast should have destroyed it. Yet somehow, the ship endured. Its shields flared, its hull burned, but it kept moving. It fought with fury, as if the ship itself carried rage older than the war. One by one, Dominion ships were torn apart. The refugees could hardly breathe. They had never seen anything like it. When the last Dominion vessel fell silent, the battlefield was littered with wreckage. The human ship floated among the ruins, scarred but alive. It had won. The refugee leader's voice shook. Who are they?" No answer came. The ship did not send a signal, did not ask for thanks. Slowly, it turned away and vanished back into the void, leaving only silence. But silence had changed. It was no longer fear. It was awe. Stories spread faster than light. In every starport, in every hidden colony, whispers grew louder. The human ship is real. It fights for no empire, no throne. It fights with fury alone. The Dominion tried to silence the tales. They burned colonies where the rumors grew, but that only made the story stronger. Now every slave, every soldier, every broken people had hope. Hope that the galaxy was not lost. Because somewhere out there, in the endless dark, one human ship was waiting. And the galaxy would never forget what it did next. The Dominion did not forget. When news of the ambush reached the High Council of the Valar Dominion, there was silence in their chamber. The councillors were not used to hearing about defeats. Their fleets were the strongest in the galaxy. Their armies never failed. And yet, one human ship had turned their victory into ashes. "This is no accident," hissed Lord Vakar, his eyes glowing with cruel fire. This vessel must be hunted down. It dares to humiliate the Dominion. It must be destroyed, and its crew must be erased from memory. The others agreed. Already, a fleet was ordered to pursue. Not a small patrol this time, but a hunter armada, dozens of warships, each one powerful enough to crush cities from orbit. But the human ship was not easy to find. It moved through the void like a ghost. It struck when least expected, always appearing where the Dominion thought themselves safe. At a mining world enslaved by the Dominion, the sky burned with fire. The human ship descended through clouds of smoke, tearing apart Dominion patrol craft in seconds. Chains were broken, slaves freed, and before the Dominion could respond, the ship was gone. At a hidden outpost where Dominion scientists experimented on prisoners, the walls shook as missiles rained from above. The human ship's fury was unstoppable, and again, it vanished before reinforcements arrived. Each strike spread fear. The Dominion, for the first time in history, looked weak. Among the people, the whispers grew louder. They gave the ship a name, the Fury of Earth. They said its captain was a ghost of war, a warrior who carried the wrath of every fallen world. Some swore the ship could not be destroyed because it was already dead, cursed to fight until the Dominion itself was gone. For the refugees, it was hope. For the Dominion, it was terror. One such refugee was Kale, a young alien from the Yari species. He had lost everything, his family, his world, his future. He traveled aboard a small freighter, barely surviving. But one night, in the cold silence of space, his ship was attacked by Dominion raiders. Kale thought his end had come. But then, out of the dark, the Fury of Earth appeared. With blinding speed, it cut through the raiders, reducing them to wreckage in minutes. Kale watched, his heart racing. He saw the scars on the ship's hull, the marks of battles no other vessel could have survived. When it was over, the human ship lingered near the freighter. For a moment, Kale thought it would vanish again. But then, a signal came through. A voice, calm, firm, and unmistakably human. "You're safe now. Stay in the shadows. Don't give the Dominion reason to find you." The transmission ended. The ship turned and disappeared. But Kale would never forget that voice. He swore he heard sorrow in it, as though the human captain carried a burden heavier than war. Meanwhile, the Dominion's fury boiled hotter. Their hunters followed the trail, using every spy, every drone, every network to track the Fury of Earth. Finally, they found something, a distress signal lured from a broken world. The trap was set. In a dead system filled with shattered moons, Dominion warships waited in silence. Their cannons were armed, their ambush perfect. No ship could survive. And then, the human vessel came. It did not hesitate. It flew straight into the trap. The Dominion commander grinned. "The ghost is caught." Hundreds of warships opened fire at once. The stars themselves seemed to ignite. The human ship was engulfed in light. For a moment, the galaxy thought it was over. But when the fire cleared, the ship still moved. Damaged, burning, but alive. And then it fought back. Every weapon blazed, missiles streaked like meteors, and Dominion ships began to fall. The Fury of Earth did not fight like other vessels. It fought like a beast cornered, striking with desperate, endless rage. Yet even as it destroyed dozens, the numbers were too great. The Dominion surrounded it, ready for the kill. The ship turned suddenly, diving into the wreckage of shattered moons. It vanished from sensors, lost in the chaos of drifting stone. The Dominion fleet pursued, chasing it into the dark. But in the silence, explosions bloomed one after another. The human ship had turned the battlefield into a trap of its own. Mines, hidden charges, debris turned into weapons, every moon fragment became a blade. When the last blast faded, the Dominion fleet was gone. Only burning wreckage remained. The Fury of Earth emerged from the shadows, battered but undefeated. Across the galaxy, the legend grew. The ship was not just fighting, it was winning. And somewhere deep inside its dark hull, the human captain whispered only one promise. "This war is not over. Not until the Dominion is ash." The galaxy could no longer ignore the Fury of Earth. Everywhere the ship appeared, the story spread like fire. Whole colonies whispered its name with hope. Soldiers trapped on the front lines told one another that the ship would come for them. Even children in slave camps whispered about the ghost that hunted the Dominion. But the Dominion did not sit idle. Their losses were piling up, and humiliation burned deeper than defeat. The Council swore that the human ship would be crushed, no matter the cost. They sent assassins. They sent spies. They even sent entire fleets. Yet the ship always slipped away, leaving only wreckage behind. Still, cracks began to show. On board the Fury, the crew was weary. They were few in number, only a handful of humans carrying a war too heavy for their shoulders. Every battle left scars not only on the ship but on the people within. Supplies ran low. Repairs grew harder. And the captain, Commander Rylan Kane, carried the heaviest burden of all. Rylan stood alone in the command chamber, staring at the stars through cracked viewports. His face was marked by fatigue, his eyes carrying the weight of every life lost in the war. He had never asked to be a savior. He had never wanted to lead a crusade. Yet here he was, fighting an empire with only one ship and a crew too stubborn to quit. "Sir," his second officer, Lieutenant Mara, said softly, "we can't keep this up. Every battle drains us. We need allies." Allies? Rylan's voice was cold. Where were allies when Earth was burning? When the Dominion slaughtered billions? No, Mara. No one came then. Why should we trust them now? Mara hesitated but did not argue. She knew the captain's pain ran deeper than any wound. Still, fate had other plans. One night, as the ship drifted in the shadow of a broken star, they received a signal. It was not Dominion, it was a coded message from a rebel faction, a coalition of species who had long resisted in secret. The message was simple. "We have seen what you have done. Meet us, or the galaxy will die alone." The crew argued. Some wanted to trust the rebels. Others believed it was a trap. But Rylan, after long silence, agreed to go. They traveled through forgotten routes, dodging Dominion patrols, until they reached a hidden asteroid base. There, for the first time, the Fury of Earth stood face to face with others who dared to resist. Kale, the Yari refugee saved by the Fury, was there. He was no longer the scared boy who had once hidden on a freighter. He had become a voice for the broken, a leader rising from the ashes of his people. When he saw Rylan, Kale bowed his head. "You are the proof that the Dominion can bleed. But you cannot do this alone. Let us fight with you." Rylan's jaw tightened. He wanted to refuse. He wanted to keep the war his own, fueled by rage and vengeance. But as he looked at the gathering of rebels, dozens of species, scarred, broken, yet still standing, he realized something. The Fury of Earth was no longer just his fight. It was hope for everyone. Before he could answer, the alarm screamed. Dominion ships had tracked them. The asteroid shook as the first blasts tore into its surface. Panic spread. The rebels scrambled for defense, but their weapons were weak. The Dominion fleet was massive, too massive for one ship. But Rylan did not hesitate. "Get your people out," he shouted to Kale. "We'll hold them back." The Fury roared to life, engines blazing, cannons charging. It surged into the heart of the Dominion fleet like a storm. The battle was chaos. Dominion cruisers fired in all directions, tearing chunks from the asteroid, blasting rebel ships apart. But the Fury was everywhere at once, weaving through fire, striking with brutal precision. Kale watched from the surface as the human ship fought like no other. "They fight like they carry the anger of 1,000 worlds," he whispered. Still, the numbers were overwhelming. The Fury's shields flickered, its hull cracked, alarms echoed through its corridors. The Dominion commander sneered. "At last, the ghost will die." But Rylan had one more move. He dove the Fury straight into the enemy flagship. At the last second, the ship unleashed every missile, every cannon, a storm of destruction that split the Dominion command vessel in half. The blast tore the fleet into confusion. The rebels seized the chance. Together, with the Fury leading the charge, they pushed the Dominion back. When the battle was over, the asteroid base was scarred but alive. The rebels had survived. Rylan stood on the bridge, exhausted, his ship bleeding sparks, but his eyes burned with fire. For the first time, the Fury of Earth was not alone. The war was changing. The galaxy trembled. For the first time in centuries, the Dominion had faced not just defiance but a united front. The fury of Earth had turned scattered rebels into something stronger, into hope. Across broken colonies, hidden stations, and dying worlds, word spread. The ghost ship did not fight alone anymore. Species who once bowed in fear now raised their heads. They whispered that the tide of war had shifted. But the Dominion was far from broken. In the High Council chambers, Lord Vakar's fury shook the walls. The loss of an entire fleet was unacceptable. His voice was venom as he spoke. This human dares to unite the weak. This ghost dares to inspire hope. If we let this continue, rebellion will spread like disease. The galaxy will slip from our grasp. What do you command? Another counselor asked. Vakar's eyes glowed. Burn their alliances. Burn their hope. Find where they gather, and strike. If the fury of Earth is the heart of their courage, then we will tear out that heart. On board the Fury, repairs dragged on. The battle at the asteroid had left the ship battered. Hull plates were torn, weapons drained, and the crew exhausted. Commander Rylan Kane stood in silence, watching sparks fly as engineers worked. His ship was alive, but only barely. The weight of command pressed harder than ever. Lieutenant Mara approached, her voice low. The rebels trust us now. They're ready to fight at our side. But, she hesitated. They depend on us too much. If the fury falls, so does their spirit. Ryland's jaw tightened. He knew she was right. The legend of the Fury had grown so large that the rebels saw it as more than a ship, it was a symbol. A symbol that could not be allowed to die. Kale, the young Yari leader, soon joined him. His people had always been slaves to the Dominion, but now he stood tall, his voice steady. We will not let you fight alone. The Dominion fears you, but they do not fear us yet. Together, we can make them bleed deeper. Rylan looked at him, studying the fire in his eyes. For the first time in years, he felt something strange, trust. But before more words could be spoken, the alarm screamed. Dominion ships had arrived. This was no small patrol. An entire battle group had descended, larger and stronger than any force the rebels had seen. The hidden base shook under orbital bombardment. The Dominion had found them. Chaos erupted. Rebel fighters scrambled, rushing into battle. The asteroid's defenses blazed, but they were weak against such power. On the Fury's bridge, Rylan gave no time for fear. All stations, ready weapons. Launch immediately. The ship roared from its docks, engines burning bright. It plunged into the Dominion fleet, drawing fire, cutting a path for the smaller rebel ships to escape. Explosions lit the void. Fighters danced among cruisers, missiles screamed through the darkness. The rebels fought with desperate courage, but the Dominion pressed harder, confident in their numbers. Inside the Fury, the crew worked furiously, every hand fighting to keep the ship alive. Shields flickered, alarms rang, but Rylan's voice cut through the chaos. Hold steady. Aim for their command ship. Break their spine. The Fury surged forward, tearing into the heart of the Dominion formation. Its cannons thundered, ripping apart destroyers in seconds. Yet every victory came with cost. The ship shook violently, metal tearing, fires sparking across its decks. Kale's voice came through the comms, fierce with determination. We stand with you, Fury. Strike now, and we strike together. The rebels followed the Fury into the storm, their small ships swarming like wolves. Dominion vessels faltered under the combined assault. For the first time, the rebels fought not as prey but as predators. But then, a shadow fell across the battlefield. From hyperspace, a massive vessel appeared, larger than any the Fury had faced. A Dominion dreadnought. Its silhouette blocked the stars, its weapons glowing with power enough to shatter moons. The rebels froze in fear. Even Rylan's crew went silent. They all knew, one ship could not face such a monster. The dreadnought's commander sneered. The ghost dies here. The first blast ripped across space, slamming into the Fury. Shields collapsed, hull plating shattered, alarms screamed across every deck. The Fury spun, wounded, yet it refused to fall. Rylan gripped the command chair, blood running from a cut across his face. His voice was steady, hard as steel. We've bled them before. We'll bleed them again. Charge every weapon we have left. Mara's voice shook. Sir, if we fire everything, there'll be nothing left for us. Ryland's eyes burned. Then let history remember how we fought. The crew obeyed. Every cannon, every missile, every ounce of fury was prepared. The ship turned, broken but unyielding, facing the dreadnought head-on. The rebels watched in awe as the fury of Earth made its charge, one scarred vessel against the Dominion's greatest weapon. The battle that followed would be remembered forever. The battlefield shook. The Dominion dreadnought loomed like a mountain of steel, its cannons glowing brighter than suns. Against it, the fury of Earth was a scarred shadow, smaller, weaker, but unbroken. Every rebel fighter froze for a moment, watching in disbelief. To them, it looked like suicide. One ship could not stand against such a monster. But then the Fury's engines roared, blazing like fire, and it charged. The rebels gasped. The legend was real. The human ship did not retreat. Inside the dreadnought, the Dominion commander sneered. They rushed to their own death. End them. A storm of energy erupted. Massive beams tore across space, smashing into asteroids, burning through the void. The Fury twisted, rolled, and dove, every move desperate, every second borrowed time. Shields flared, hull shook, but it endured. Target their weapon arrays. Ryland barked from the command chair. His voice was calm, but his crew saw the fire in his eyes. Missiles streaked from the Fury, slamming into the dreadnought's flanks. Explosions lit its surface, tearing through smaller turrets. But the beast was too big, too strong. It shrugged off the damage and kept firing. On the rebel channels, voices cracked with fear. It's impossible. We'll be slaughtered. But then Cale's voice cut through, steady and fierce. The Fury is fighting. So will we. Follow them. The rebels surged forward, courage ignited. Swarms of smaller ships darted into the dreadnought's blind spots, striking from every angle. The Dominion's perfect formation broke under the sudden fury of resistance. Still, the dreadnought pressed its power. One blast struck the Fury directly. The ship screamed as metal tore, alarms howled, fires spread across its decks. Mara's hands shook at her station. Shields are gone. Hull integrity is failing. Ryland stood tall. Then we fight with what's left. Redirect all power to weapons. If we're falling, we're taking them with us. The Fury dove straight at the dreadnought, weaving through fire that could vaporize cities. Its cannons blazed, missiles fired in endless streams, every weapon tearing into the monster. Piece by piece, the dreadnought bled, but it was not enough. Then Ryland saw it, the heart of the beast. A weak point, hidden deep within the dreadnought's armor, where its reactor glowed with unstable light. It was a chance, 1 in a million. Mara, he said quietly. Plot a course. Straight into the core. Her eyes widened. That's suicide. Ryland's voice was iron. It's survival. The Fury turned, engines howling, and aimed directly at the dreadnought's heart. Dominion crews panicked, realizing too late what was coming. The dreadnought unleashed everything. Beams sliced across the void, missiles screamed, the stars themselves seemed to burn. The Fury took hit after hit. Plates tore away. Fires consumed corridors. Crew were thrown from their stations. But the ship did not stop. On the rebel channels, silence fell. They watched, unable to breathe, as the Fury of Earth cut through the storm, a single burning dagger racing toward the impossible. Impact in 10 seconds, Mara whispered. Hold the line, Ryland said. His voice was steady, but his hands bled from gripping the chair too hard. The ship closed the distance. At the last second, it unleashed every weapon, every missile, every blast of rage it carried. The dreadnought's reactor screamed. The glow inside it turned to fire. And then, the stars exploded. The shockwave tore across the battlefield, scattering ships like leaves in a storm. The dreadnought cracked apart, its massive frame breaking into burning fragments. The rebels shouted in disbelief, in joy, in awe. The impossible had been done. When the fire cleared, the dreadnought was gone. Only wreckage remained. And there, drifting in the silence, scarred and broken but still alive, was the Fury of Earth. The rebels erupted with cheers. They had seen it with their own eyes. The legend was true. The Fury could not be destroyed. On the bridge, smoke filled the air. Sparks rained from the ceiling. Crew members coughed, wounded but alive. Mara looked at Rylan with tears in her eyes. We survived." Rylan said nothing. His gaze was locked on the drifting wreckage of the dreadnought. His jaw was tight, his eyes cold. "This is only the beginning," he whispered. Because he knew the Dominion would not stop. They would send more. Stronger. The Fury's victory had not ended the war, it had only made the Dominion's rage burn brighter. But somewhere deep inside, Rylan also knew something else. For the first time, the galaxy had seen what one human ship could do. And that memory would never die. The galaxy roared with hope. The fall of the Dominion dreadnought spread like fire across the stars. News traveled faster than ships. In every slave camp, in every hidden colony, in every broken city, people whispered the same words: the Fury of Earth destroyed a dreadnought. For the first time in living memory, the Dominion looked weak. Rebel fleets grew larger as more species joined. Smugglers, deserters, even farmers with stolen ships came to fight. They painted symbols of the Fury on their hulls, a mark of defiance, a sign of courage. But in the Dominion's capital, silence fell. The High Council gathered in shadows. Lord Vakar's voice was like poison. "Enough. We underestimated this human ghost. We gave them time to grow, and now rebellion spreads like rot. We will cut it out, no matter the cost." The Council agreed. The Dominion began preparing something greater than any fleet, something designed not just to kill, but to break hope itself. On board the Fury, the crew worked tirelessly. The victory over the dreadnought had come at a heavy cost. The ship's hull was cracked, its weapons drained, and entire sections still burned from the battle. Rylan Kane walked through the damaged corridors, listening to the hum of broken engines and the voices of weary crew. His ship had survived, but barely. He knew it could not withstand another fight like the last. Lieutenant Mara approached him. Her uniform was scorched, her hands still blackened from repairs. "Sir," she said softly, "the crew is tired. Supplies are low. We need rest." Rylan's eyes stayed fixed on the stars outside the viewport. "Rest will come when the Dominion is ash." Mara frowned. "And what if we burn first?" Rylan didn't answer. He couldn't. Kale, the Yari rebel, boarded the Fury not long after. His people had suffered slavery for generations, but now he carried himself with pride. He found Rylan alone on the bridge. "You've given the galaxy something it never had before," Kale said. "Hope. But hope cannot live on one ship alone. Let us fight with you. Let us share the burden." Rylan's jaw tightened. "This ship isn't a symbol, Kale. It's a weapon. And weapons are meant to be used, not worshipped." Kale shook his head. "No. You don't understand. To the people, the Fury is more than a weapon. It's a promise. If it falls, their courage will fall too." The weight of those words pressed against Rylan's chest. He had never asked to carry the galaxy's faith. He had only wanted vengeance for Earth. But now, the war had grown beyond him. The warning came too late. Dominion scouts found the rebel fleet hiding in the rings of a shattered world. And with them came the new weapon the Council had built, a colossal war machine unlike anything seen before. It was not a ship, it was a fortress. A moving citadel the size of a moon, armed with weapons powerful enough to tear fleets apart in minutes. When it appeared in the sky, the rebels froze in terror. The Fury of Earth stood at the front of the line, scarred but unyielding. Rylan stared at the monstrous fortress and felt something rare, doubt. "We can't fight that," Mara whispered. Kale's voice came over the comms, steady but fierce. "If we run now, the galaxy will lose faith. If we fight, even if we die, the galaxy will rise." Rylan closed his eyes for one long second. Then he opened them, his voice like steel. "Then we fight." The battle began. The Dominion fortress unleashed storms of fire, entire rebel ships vanishing in seconds. Fighters swarmed like insects, only to be burned away by walls of plasma. The void shook with destruction. The Fury charged first. Its cannons roared, missiles streaked, but the fortress barely flinched. Its armor was thicker than mountains, its shields glowing with unnatural strength. Still, the Fury did not retreat. It wove through enemy fire, striking again and again, forcing the fortress to turn its weapons on them instead of the weaker rebels. Rebel ships followed its lead, swarming in packs, tearing at the fortress's edges. For every ship that fell, more fought on, their courage fueled by the Fury at their side. Inside the human ship, chaos reigned. Alarms blared, fires spread, but the crew fought with desperate strength. Main guns failing. Mara shouted. "Keep firing," Rylan growled. His eyes burned with fury. "If this fortress thinks it can break us, it will learn what Earth's anger truly means." The Fury dove close to the fortress, flying through firestorms that should have destroyed it. Its cannons slammed into the weak points between armored plates. Explosions rippled across the surface. But the fortress was far from defeated. With a single blast, it hurled the Fury aside, sending it spinning into the void. Metal screamed as the ship's hull split. On the rebel channels, voices cried out in panic. The Fury is hit. The fortress prepared for the final strike. Its weapons glowed brighter, ready to end the legend once and for all. Inside the broken bridge, smoke filled the air. Crew lay wounded, sparks rained, but Rylan stood unshaken. His voice was steady, fierce. "Not yet. This ship doesn't die. Not today." The Fury's engines roared back to life. The galaxy held its breath. The galaxy watched. Across countless worlds, hidden colonies, and slave camps, people whispered the same question: would the Fury of Earth survive? The answer was unfolding above the shattered planet, where the Dominion's fortress, their greatest weapon, burned against the void. It loomed like a moon, a war machine built to crush hope itself. And yet, before it, a single scarred ship still fought. The Fury of Earth. Smoke filled its corridors. Sparks rained from broken panels. Fires burned in the lower decks. Crew members were wounded, exhausted, running on nothing but willpower. But the engines still roared, and the guns still thundered. On the bridge, Commander Rylan Kane stood like a shadow carved from iron. His face was streaked with blood, his uniform scorched, but his eyes burned brighter than the stars. "Status," he demanded. "Shields gone. Hull integrity at 20%. Weapons failing," Mara answered, her voice raw but steady. Rylan's jaw tightened. "Then we have 20% more fight in us." The crew straightened at his words. They would follow him to the end. Outside, the rebel fleet was breaking. Smaller ships fell one by one, torn apart by the fortress's endless fire. Kale's voice rang through the comms, desperate yet fierce. "Fury, if you fall, we all fall. What's the plan?" Rylan's eyes locked on the fortress's glowing heart, the core reactor buried deep inside. His voice was calm, almost cold. "We finish this the only way we can. We go inside." The bridge fell silent. To enter the fortress was madness. No ship had ever breached its armor. But in Rylan's eyes, there was no hesitation. Mara whispered, "You'll kill us all." Rylan turned to her. "If we fall here, the galaxy burns. If we strike, even if we die, the galaxy rises." The decision was made. The Fury dove into the storm. Dominion guns blazed, but the human ship moved with impossible precision, weaving between fire, enduring blow after blow. Missiles tore holes in the fortress's armor. Rebel fighters swarmed after it, sacrificing themselves to shield the Fury's path. Kale's voice shouted over the comms, "For the Fury!" The ship slammed into the fortress's surface, cutting through layers of steel with its last remaining cannons. Alarms screamed on both sides. The Fury punched into the enemy like a spear of fire, breaking through to the inner chambers. The galaxy held its breath. Inside the fortress, the Dominion commander roared in fury. "Destroy them! Tear them apart!" But it was too late. The Fury was inside. The corridors of the fortress lit with fire as the Fury's guns blazed point blank. It forced its way deeper, heading straight for the reactor. On the bridge, Mara's hands shook over her controls. "We won't make it out if we hit the core." Rylan's voice was steady. "Then we don't make it out. But we make sure they don't either." The crew said nothing. Not one protested. They all knew this was the end they had been born for. The reactor chamber loomed ahead, glowing like a small star. Its unstable light pulsed, filled with energy enough to rip apart a system. The Fury lined up the shot. Ryland's voice was quiet now, almost a whisper. For Earth. For every world they burned. Firing all weapons. Mara shouted. The Fury unleashed everything. Every cannon, every missile, every last ounce of fury the ship had carried through endless battles. The reactor screamed. The light turned white. And then, the galaxy shook. A blinding explosion ripped through the fortress, tearing it apart from the inside. Its armored shell cracked, split, and shattered into fire. The Dominion's greatest weapon was gone. But in the silence after, no one saw the Fury. The rebels searched the wreckage, scanning the burning debris, calling for the ship. But there was no answer. Fury. Kale whispered over the comms. Nothing came back. And then, slowly, the fortress fragments cleared. Out of the flames, broken, smoking, barely holding together, drifted the Fury of Earth. Alive. The rebels erupted in cheers, voices breaking with joy and awe. Across the galaxy, the legend spread instantly. The Fury had destroyed the fortress. Humanity's ghost ship had turned the impossible into victory once more. On the bridge, half the systems were dead, half the crew wounded, but Ryland stood tall. His voice was hoarse but unshaken. "Signal the fleet," he said. "Tell them the Dominion bleeds. Tell them the war has just begun." The crew smiled through smoke and pain. Because they all knew the truth. The Fury of Earth was no longer just a ship. It was the symbol of a galaxy rising. And the galaxy would never forget.